What's going on YouTube? This is a video that I've been wanting to make or been planning on making for a very long time as soon as my truck got back from being complete by wherever that ended up being, which of course will be in this story. This is going to be a story about why my truck took a year to get done. I'm hoping the story's not a boring video. If this is one that you don't want to sit around and listen to me talk for 30 minutes and nothing going on with the truck, this isn't the video for you. But if you're looking to watch something that has a bunch of drama in it, then this is for you. I don't like being a part of drama. This is just something I got roped into, and a lot of people wondered why all of a sudden I stopped posting on Instagram, stopped posting on YouTube. Not that I was ever doing YouTube for a very long time, but I was doing it for a couple months with high hopes of having this truck back shortly after it went away last year, to of course continue with content once I got it back. So what happened was pretty unfortunate to myself and my dad as well. He was also wrapped up into this based off my recommendation. So without further ado, I'm just gonna jump into the story, try and make this as unedited as possible. If I say a bunch of ums or get stumbled in my words, of course I'll cut that out, but I'm gonna try and pretty much go off the dome here. But there was a lot that happened in the last year. So to start this off, there's a company called Performance Diesel. They're based out of Bakersfield, California, and the owner, back when I originally started talking to them back in about 2017, was Travis. So Travis was the owner. He started the company years prior to that. A lot of people know this company. Today is not ran by the same guy, which of course we'll get into. But he was a great guy. He always messaged me back when I had questions. Originally, when I got this truck deleted after having it for about 35,000 miles, 30 to 35K, it was bone stock, and aside from being leveled on wheels and tires. But once I wanted to delete it, I was around that 30, 35K mile range. I went directly through PPEI, and I got their high flow bundle kit and the exhaust, the lift pump, things like that. Of course, with anything in life, you get used to power levels and you want a little bit more. So I always loved, this is a little side tangent here, but I love the sound of the LBZs when they put a drop-in turbo on them. So back then in 2017, that wasn't very popular with the LMLs, only because when Danville had came out with them originally for the LMLs, there was something with the tuning that wasn't right and they were hard to manage, so he kind of pulled them off the shelf. Well, that exact time was when I was looking to do an upgrade. So when I contacted PPEI, they were pushing me compound. I was wanting to go with something a little bit different with the LMLs. So of course it wasn't the popular route for good reason, but I went the drop-in turbo route with the help of Performance Diesel. That's where Travis entered the picture. I messaged a bunch of shops that essentially sold all these parts. There's multiple ones out there. And I hit up Performance Diesel along with, like I mentioned, many of the shops. Travis got back to me immediately. Was always very helpful. There was never an issue. And like I mentioned, if I had a question on a Saturday night at 10 o'clock, not that I'm that guy, I tried to not message people for no reason, but this was of course at the time where we became more friends. It wasn't really strictly business, like, hey, you're emailing PPEI with a question. It was more of me and him just kind of, BSing back and forth. But anyways, I came up with a bunch of parts I ordered from Performance Diesel, which included an SDP Screaming Deals Performance drop-in 68mm turbo. I got the Sportsman CP3 with the conversion kit, also from SDP, and I had some other things in there as well. I can't remember them all. I don't believe I had the Y-bridge, so I got the Y-bridge from them as well. I believe that was an HSP part, not 100% sure. But anyways, that's another guy's truck right now. I sold that to him. But I got all the piping I could. I got the drop-in turbo, I got the CP3, I already had the lift pump and the exhaust, and I got downpipe as well. Oh, and I also got manifolds and pipes. Excuse me. So I tried to do everything bolt-on on the motor that you could without actually having to take the motor apart to do anything else. I knew at that point I should have done head studs, but that's done now. So, and I didn't need it back then anyways, but so Performance Diesel set me up with all those parts, and that was something that I got from him in a very reasonable time. I got everything powder coated the way I wanted it. And this was, I got all this from him about a year after knowing him, roughly, Travis Performance Diesel. And I got all the parts. I brought the truck to a shop to have everything installed. And of course, these are things that, I could always attempt, but I don't have the time. I'm very busy here, with our family business in pool construction. So something that I don't have a lot of time to do is mess around with these trucks because it takes a lot of time. So that's that there. But I had the turbo put on, CP3, everything like that, everything was beautiful. Me and Travis were still great. Then I had, issues with the transmission, of course, pushing it beyond its power with not having great tuning because there wasn't great tuning out for the drop-in turbos. I just wasn't perfectly happy with it. I was always bouncing other ideas off Travis. And of course, I'm in Florida, he's in California, we're nowhere close. He always wanted to get my truck, but I never wanted to send it to California. I was a little weary of that. So after about 2 years of me knowing him, I had the 68mm turbo in for, about a year and a half. He hit me up and said that he was opening a shop in North Carolina, which is not that far from me. So he offered to build my truck, whenever he was picking up another truck somewhere in Florida. He's like, hey, I'll pick yours up too. We can bring it back up here and I can build it myself. It'll be me working on it. And that made me, excited. So to have him work on it, a guy that's been helping me for 2 years now. So what happened was, of course, I told my dad my plans. My dad also has a 16 LML. He wanted to follow a similar route as well, so he also wanted to do a compound kit. So Travis sent myself an invoice, my dad an invoice. I gave Travis a deposit, my dad gave Travis a deposit. This was in January of 2019, like January 2nd or 3rd, like beginning of 19. And the truck was supposed to be picked up in a couple weeks, somewhere around 2 to 4 weeks. And this turned into getting picked up at the end of March. So in that whole lapse, Travis was telling me that he had a truck in there that, he was trying to get out. So once mine got there, he could actually work on it, which makes sense. He didn't want it just sitting around. But of course, at this time, I believed him, but I suspect that there was other things going on at the time that he was just using to, to get me to wait longer. So in the middle end of March, my truck gets picked up, gets brought up to North Carolina. I was going on a cruise. Travis actually called me the day I got on the boat, and we talked about timelines. I was told 2 to 4 weeks, roughly. Of course, he made sure he let me know that it may be another week longer or something like that. But that was his time frame. And the whole point of me giving him the money in January and then him getting my truck, whatever time after, whether it was 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, the whole point of that was for him to have the parts. So when the trucks got there, he could work on them immediately, get them done, send them back down here. Of course, I can go pick them back up there, drive it home, which is what I did. So he gets the truck end of March, and I'm talking to him on the phone about time frames. He gives me a time frame, and I was excited. This is where, me being excited and trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, and him having my truck and being so far away, things got sketchy. So this is where the drama starts. What happened was, mind you, I give him a sizable deposit. When I say deposit, I'm not talking $1,000. My bill was pretty hefty as well as my dad's was. My dad was doing a little bit more than me. Of course, has a bigger available budget than I do, so he was doing a little bit more to his. And he had nothing done at this point. I already had the CP3, had the up pipes, manifolds, all the piping. I was just adding an HSP compound kit, but all the piping and Y bridge was supposed to work. And I need everything. My dad needed more parts because his was just deleted at the time. So he needed all these little things to get everything together. So his bill was just naturally going to be more. But I also had a built trans in my quote from Mike L. I wanted a Mike L trans. And these are just things that I had in my quote just to kind of understand. The bill was up there. So we gave him, I think it was somewhere around 80 to 90% of the money up front. And then of course that was to buy all the parts, and the rest was just the labor price, which, he was going to do. And then of course, once it was done, I'd pay him for it. So he had a lot of money from myself and my dad all at once. And what happened was, even the whole time frame before I sent my truck to him, I never got any pictures or updates of parts coming in. So I sent the truck to him. I trusted this guy a lot. He's someone I really trusted. He did me right before. A lot of people know this company. A lot of people I even talked to on Instagram have bought stuff from Travis. They performance diesel, no issues. And what ends up happening is my truck's there for week after week after week. I'm not getting any updates. Every time I talk to him, he's just giving me more BS, but I'm eating it at this point because we're in the first couple of weeks, right? First month to month and a half, I'm eating it. So, because of course I'm believing him still. I don't think anything weird is going on yet. So after about, let's see, so if he gets it in March, we're talking in April would be 1 month, May would be another month. I was trying to make it to Daytona, which I don't remember if it was even in June or July of last year, but I know that I was trying to make it to Daytona, and up until about a week before Daytona, I hadn't received even one picture of a part that I paid him for the first week of January of 2019. So even let's say it's the end of May, roughly, how many months is that? That's 4 or 5 months of me getting nothing, no pictures or proof. I couldn't get a picture of my truck from him. I kept after he kept feeding me BS, you know, after the first month, and I was getting nothing back from him, he would tell me, hey, I'll send you a picture of your truck or your parts tomorrow. It would never happen. I'd ask him a couple of days later, because I wouldn't want to bother him too much. Ask him a couple of days later, he'd say, oh yeah, man, sorry, something came up. I'll get over there today, or I'll send my wife over there. Still didn't get anything. So of course I'm getting more worried. There was someone that was local in North Carolina that I had go over by his shop where he said my truck was, the actual address, because I had things shipped there as well. And it was a place that was, you know, gated shut. It's not like an industrial complex you can just walk up to and see a business name on it and open the door and walk in. So this was a place where it's always gated shut unless the people are going in and out of. It was in Mooresville, North Carolina, and even the people I sent by there, I could never get them there with Travis there at the same time, even though multiple meetings were planned. Because I just wanted proof that my truck was there, the parts were there, what I paid him for, as well as my dad's. My dad's truck was also there. So it's supposed to be 2 compound kits, 2 transmissions, all this stuff, which mind you, I was told all this stuff was there and on the floor in the shop for weeks and weeks and weeks. That's why I asked for pictures, because I wasn't seeing anything done on the truck, and I couldn't get any pictures. So what ended up happening is, right before Daytona, Travis, you know, he knew I had to have the truck. And what ended up happening is the compound kit that he ordered, which mind you was a whole mess in itself, the Y bridge didn't fit. The way the Y bridge came up, it didn't fit with the new compound kit that HSP had made. So he told me I had to get a new Y bridge. So that was something that I was like, you know, he ordered it, he tried to get it shipped fast from HSP, it didn't come in. That's why I ultimately missed Daytona. We didn't have the Y bridge. Come to find out, about a month later, I don't know exactly when I got it last year, of course I'd have to go back, but I just kind of winging this here. So my time frames are pretty accurate, but I don't want to exaggerate, I don't want to make it seem worse than it actually was. So about a month later, my truck was finally supposed to be done. I booked a trip to go up there and get it. I told Travis, if it's done or not, I'll bring it home on a wrecker, or I'm gonna drive it home, either one or the other. I'm done with it being in North Carolina. Because at this point, I was finally getting some pictures, but mind you, the pictures I got showed the powder coat colors I did not ask for. He was supposed to get the colors fixed before I got there, he didn't. I had mismatched logos, some are gloss black, some are flat black. I heard through the grapevine 2 days before I went to get the truck that Travis was scrambling to get a transmission. So I kind of put 2 and 2 together, and I was like, well, if he was waiting, if the only thing holding me up from missing Daytona was a Y bridge, there's no way he had a transmission the month prior when he was waiting on the Y bridge. So my truck wouldn't have been ready regardless, but of course that was never disclosed to me. He just made it seem like, well, this was something that was unforeseen, and unfortunately it's not done. But there were many things that, you know, weren't done. I mean, the day I showed up, he was literally wiring in the sub box I have under the back seat right now. It was something that you could tell he just installed. So he was supposed to have the truck go to an actual stereo shop and have everything professionally installed. He didn't. He was supposed to have, you know, everything done weeks and weeks and months prior to when he was supposed to. He didn't. I also found out, you know, when I got there, I was pretty cordial with him. I wanted to see if he would tell me when I got there in person. if he had actually gotten me a different transmission and was upfront with me. So he didn't tell me. Now, mind you, before I got there, you know, I do have some other connections that I did make sure this transmission was at least a 750 build and not just the 550 I believe WhirleyFab has. So at least it would hold what it was supposed to, and it was. So I got there, I looked under the truck, I saw for sure exactly it was a WhirleyFab trans. Mind you, it was supposed to be a Mike L trans. That's what I paid him for, it's what was in my invoice. So I literally call up under the truck, he sees me looking at it and he goes, oh yeah, everything went in smooth, even though it's the plate on the side of the trans, it matches all your red on your truck, it looks great. Which, mind you, he had no idea that I knew that was WhirleyFab's trademark thing that they do if you don't ask for any specific colors. That's what they put on their transmissions, it's like flat black with a red plate. So I seen that, I knew for sure it wasn't a Mike L trans. And also, you know, he just got the sub box in, there were scratches on that, which I've since fixed. The adjustment knob, you know, for your amp, which powers the subs, that was also laying in the back seat. He never ran that and, you know, installed it on the column or in the center console or anywhere, so he just left it bundled on the floor in the back seat. So, you know, like I paid him to install it, and this is just another little thing that he didn't do. I have a whole email on my phone that I sent him, you know, back after I left, because I told him, I said, hey, you want to square up? And he said, no, just make sure you get home safe. And when I said square up, I was talking about money, because of course I owed him some money. And I said, you know, if you want to square up, let me know right now and I'll give you the cash. So I knew the transmission was good. I saw the compound kit on the truck. I got my old CP3 back because I had moved to a 10mm CP3. I had the subs in the back of the truck. So yeah, there were some small things I knew weren't right, like the colors of the compound kit, but we had already talked about taking some money off until, you know, until those things got fixed. He told me he'd have HSP send me a new pipe. I could send that pipe back, you know, that was wrong with the wrong logo color. The coolant crossover kit, the coolant crossover pipe was like purple looking, it wasn't Illusion Cherry, so he was gonna get me a new one of those. So these were all things that were taken into consideration, even if I paid him right then. But he said, no, don't worry about it. So I get home, and about a week later he sends me an invoice and says, hey, this is what's due. And I sent him back an email. Now mind you, at this point, he had no idea that I knew I had a WhirleyFab trans, and he didn't disclose it to me. So I sent him an email back and I said, well, you know, you put a WhirleyFab trans in my truck, I wanted a Mike L trans. I wasn't super happy with the way the 751 was shifting anyways. I still feel there was something wrong with it. It's since been rebuilt, now it has the 750 Plus package. It's amazing. But the 751, I just felt like there was something wrong with it. He also filled it up with like AutoZone regular fluid. It wasn't even anything for an Allison, you know, the TES 295. He didn't have any good fluid in it, so it was all garbage fluid. I don't know if that had something to do with it. It could have. But mind you, before I got home, I did stop by Carolina Diesel Trucks, which is who finished my truck. And you can see in my last video, Thomas at CDT, he was the one that told you guys what they did to my truck. Now I kind of skipped a little bit of ahead. My dad's truck just never got touched. Travis never got to it, and he eventually contacted me right around the time of me trying to get to Daytona. He said, hey, do you mind if Carolina Diesel Trucks finishes, you know, your dad's truck? And of course I said, well, you should call my dad. He's your customer, you can call him too, you know, he paid you. So I said, call him. So he called my dad, Travis did, and my dad, you know, of course wasn't happy with that because the whole reason we sent it all the way up there was for him to do it. And overall, my dad just wanted the truck done because, you know, at this point it had been 4 or 5 months of just BS going around with no parts shown still, even for my dad's. So my dad agreed. His truck got shipped to CDT, which is about 2 hours away. And when it showed up there to CDT, they said they didn't have a full compound kit. They had no transmission. They had no sub box. A bunch of things that Travis said he was going to ship with the truck. He was going to load the truck up in the back of the bed with all the parts. Travis just said he just couldn't get to it. So he had nothing. Nothing was in the back of the truck when it got there. So of course at this point, Travis is promising, oh, I just didn't ship it out. I'm going to, you know, I didn't want to put it on the tow truck, blah, 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 when it left. So I'll ship it out. I'll send it over there. They'll have it. This went on for 2 more weeks. CDT never got the parts. So my dad at that point put a claim in with the credit card company. We won that, got all of our money back. You know, my dad did for his. We didn't put a claim in for mine, you know, because I pretty much had most of the parts. So, oh, and of course, you know, the credit card company is not going to care if, you know, I have a Mike L trans or a Whirling Fab trans. If Travis can prove that he put a trans in it, then, you know, so I just live with that. Of course, I owed him a little bit of money that I just ended up telling him that, you know, I'll pay you this, and this. I'll pay you for these things if you fix these things, but I'm not going to pay you for these things that you're not going to fix. So, you know, he's telling me, oh, well, you know, take your truck to a shop and take the transmission out, send it back to me, and I'll give you your money back for the transmission. And, you know, I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Because the whole reason why I didn't have my truck worked on locally here is because I don't trust it. There's no one local to me that works on these trucks. I don't want another pair of hands on it, possibly ruining something else. So I said, I'll buy you a plane ticket. You can come down here. We have a full shop with a lift and every tool you can imagine. We do. And I said, you can take it out. I said, I'll literally pay you to take it out. You can take it out, pay for your plane flight here and back, but I want you doing it because you're the one I trusted to work on the truck. He wouldn't do that, of course. And I also offered him, I said, hey, send me a pipe from HSP like you told me you would. I can swap it out. Mind you, I paid you for the labor so I wouldn't have to do it, but now I will do it, and just send me the pipe and I'll pay you for that part. And he said, no, I'm not going to send you the pipe until you pay me this, you know, the rest of the amount that you owe me. And I said, well, that's not what you told me when I left up there at your shop. I also brought up the, you know, the bass knob, essentially for your amplifier knob to control the subs. And I said, you know, that's something that should have been installed and it wasn't. So he took that off the invoice, which, you know, was super cheap anyways. I can't remember all the other little things. I mean, even when I got to CDT, I popped the hood. They wanted to see what Travis did. The battery wasn't even held down. You could wiggle the battery back and forth on the passenger side of the truck. There was no bracket or anything holding it down. It was just floating around. It was pretty much sitting this close to the exhaust housing on the, you know, atmosphere charger on the HSP kit. So, you know, there was also at that point I had a VGT turbo, a Danville turbo, which I still have at this point in the back of my truck, and like in the bed of the truck sitting right now. I had a Danville turbo that was in there at the time, and the VGT sensor, of course it has a white wire coming off of it, was running, you know, over to the driver's side, and it was literally just like resting on the exhaust housing on that turbo. The casing was all burnt. So CDT, you know, they helped me out. I also had an up pipe bolt that just wasn't put in. I don't know what happened to it, but I was missing an up pipe bolt. So a couple things that CDT saw right away when they were looking at my truck. And then Travis also told me, hey, don't get on your truck yet because I didn't get a transmission tune, which was a whole other ordeal. He was like trying to get tunes for my brand new transmission that was put in like a day before I got there that he didn't tell me about as well. He said he had it on the floor for months. Mind you, he got it the day before I got there. And so he said, don't get into it till you can download this transmission tune. I said, no problem. So I drove all the way to CDT. I get to CDT and the tune pops up on my EZ-Link. I said, sweet. I download it. Truck just died. It would not take the TCM tune. Since it wouldn't take the TCM tune, the TCM was getting so hot, the truck wouldn't start. I couldn't download a stock file. I couldn't change ECM tunes. My truck was like dead on a Friday night at CDT's shop. And the owner there, Thomas, him and his brother were very nice, very, very nice. They took the TCM off my truck and they were sitting in their SEMA truck with the AC blasting to cool it down to put it back in there so I could just load a stock file and get out of there. Mind you, I was there past like 7 p.m. on a Friday night. I knew they wanted to go home. I felt so bad, but my truck was dead. And of course, they couldn't just lock the gate and leave me there and go home because once it did cool down eventually, you know, how would I get out if they locked the gate? So they were kind of forced to help me, but you know, they didn't give me any attitude at all that I normally experience in, you know, in the automotive industry. So they greatly helped me out. And that was just another nightmare of me calling Travis, not answering the phone. He told me to call him if I had any issues. Wouldn't answer the phone. He could care less what happened at that point. He just wanted me, he was just glad my truck was going out of the shop, to be honest, I'm sure. You know, hacked. But, so I got home, I was able to get home, and while I'm arguing with Travis, my major issue was a big part of this of why I was so irritated was by the way, let me step back here. The whole transmission tune thing, he was blaming the tuner for not having it. Said he's been asking for it for days. That was a lie as well. I confirmed that with the tuner. And I believe the tuner, he had information he showed me proving when Travis had asked for it. So that's why I believe the tuner. Travis also said that this tuner said you should wastegate your kit. You know, wastegate the turbo, the atmosphere charger. So he said you should wastegate your compound kit to help with drive pressure. You know, since I was still going to have a stock motor. So we had a whole thing about why I should do it. HSP had to custom make it, which of course he added onto the delayed time frames. Just to dive into that as well, at the time, I was talking to Scott at SDP, Screaming Diesel Performance. I believe he's in Seattle. I'm not 100% sure. But he's on the other corner of the country from where I am. I was talking to him and he was telling me that he could give me one of his compound kits, and you know, he was going, and I was supposed to, you know, rep their company, and he was gonna give me a hookup price, and he was gonna give me a true time frame of when he can give me the parts. And in that midst, I contacted Travis and I said, hey, I want to do this kit instead. If you haven't ordered the HSP stuff, no problem. I said if they haven't even started it, you know, that's awesome, because then I can just get this kit and you can put it on. And he said, no, I've already ordered it, they've already started it, which mind you was also a lie. So then I kind of had to tell Scott, well, HSP already started my kit. I was in good relations with Scott at that point, so that kind of went by the wayside. But what I learned at that point was Performance Diesel had stopped dealing with SDP, because I had Travis tell me at the time when I asked him if I could switch to SDP, he said, no, you don't want to deal with them. You know, they tell you they can get you a kit in 2 weeks and they take 3 times as long and they can't get you the parts on time. I talked to Scott and Scott said the same thing about Travis. He said, well, you know, Travis can't meet his timelines, and that's exactly why we stopped working with him, because we would have his upset customers calling us, yelling at us saying, well, Travis is telling us that, you know, that you can't get your stuff done on time and that's why our truck's not done, which Scott said was not the case, and that's why he eventually just told Travis he's done dealing with them. So I had a whole midst there that I ran into, not even knowing that Travis wouldn't want to work with him, neither would Scott. Once Scott knew that I was working with Travis, he's like, I won't even sell you a kit anyways, you know, unless I ship it to you, because he didn't want to deal with Travis at all. So anyways, that kind of went by the wayside. And at that time, I kind of believed Travis still, because mind you, this was in the beginning stages of my truck just getting to, my truck was just got up there to North Carolina. So, you know, Travis was telling me how long this kit was taking to make, which was also a reason why it took 2.5 months for him to pick the truck up. So I thought I could have switched at that time and got the kit on time and I have to wait longer. But all in all, I know that Travis was lying the whole time. Scott was not lying. Now to this day, I have a WorleyFab kit on my truck now. CDT uses a lot of WorleyFab products, and Scott was still weary of, you know, selling it to me under the pretenses of Performance Diesel, staying behind it and ordering me a new kit, which I'll get into in a second here. But overall, to go back to the wastegate point, the wastegated kit did not work. He promised up and down, he put a waste. All right, so the camera stopped recording. Had to reset it there. So I was just talking for another 10 minutes and I noticed it wasn't recording again. So I'll have to remember where I was. I think I was talking about the wastegate. So the wastegate kit was supposed to work and be a set it and forget it type thing. Travis told me he'd put a boost controller in the truck and I wouldn't have to touch it, but it would control everything so I can go through my tunes, I can change tunes and boost pressures and not have to worry about adjusting it, which didn't make sense to me. You know, I come from turbo LS's and that's something you always have to change or adjust, but he said you wouldn't have to because he had it figured out. He's done it 10 times. I said, sweet. So I ended up getting the truck back and, you know, it didn't make over 30 pounds of boost, which what's the point of having a compound kit? It won't make over 30 pounds of boost. I was so upset with the truck. It was just, you know, driving terrible. I got to a point where I didn't want it anymore. I was still arguing with Travis. We couldn't come to, you know, a meeting, a mutual agreement where the truck could get fixed. and he could get paid. So I tried to do everything I could. You know, I said, you know, you can come down here and I'll pay for you once again. So I'll pay for you to come down here and fix everything. I don't care, but I don't, you know, I don't have all the knowledge to do every little thing that needs to be done to get it fixed, nor do I have the time. That's the biggest thing. So in this time, me and him are arguing back and forth. A little bit of time goes by, about a month of me having the truck back. And mind you, I bought a ticket for Daytona, a hotel, everything, missed it all. He could care less. I lost that money, you know. I was just very irritated. So I get a call one night from Bakersfield, California. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take the phone call. I said, I hope it's Travis. You know, I'm not trying to run from him and not pay him. I answer the phone and it's Dylan at Performance Diesel. And he starts asking me about an open invoice. I immediately got upset. You know, I thought he knew already, but apparently he didn't. But I said, you know, you need to talk to Travis. I'm not talking to you about this. You know, this is something that I've been dealing with Travis on. I don't know why he's having you call me. He knows why he hasn't been paid yet. I said, I have every intention of paying your company as long as everything gets fixed. I have no problem doing that. I'll even keep the transmission in the truck. I wanted the truck to run right. I couldn't even get it to run right. Making 30 pounds of boost. So, I mean, I even tried blocking the wastegate off, everything I could do. No matter what I did, I could not figure it out. I did not know what was going on with it. So at this point, this is where things took a turn for the better. This is why my truck is even done and sitting here. It's because Travis is no longer involved at Performance Diesel. There's a guy by the name of Steven that actually bought the company. Now the funny thing is, the reason he bought the company wasn't because he just decided to buy a diesel company, diesel performance shop one day. He also got screwed over by Travis. So this guy Steven, he had a couple of projects going on at Performance Diesel, and Travis once again took a bunch of money from this guy Steven, did nothing, you know, did personal things with it. You know, I know he has like a nice house in North Carolina. He has a new truck, he had a boat, things like that. Which is all from, he's like a bad contractor that takes deposits and never gets anything done and just uses the money for, you know, for his own pleasures and goes out of business. But Steven came in kind of as like a save the day thing. He's like, hey Travis, I'll buy your business. But of course the money that you owe me, that's going to be a deficit there. So, you know, what that means is he buys the company for, let's say, $1 million. Travis owed Steven like $200,000, it'd be $800,000 for the business. Just for a reference. I'm not saying those are the numbers. I don't have any exact numbers. But Steven came in. He came in a lot sooner than I thought. So he didn't just come in right at this time. He came in months prior. The reason I had a WhirleyFab trans in my truck the day before I got there, which Travis got like 2 days before I got there to pick it up, was because of Steven. Steven paid WhirleyFab. Travis actually ended up calling Steven and saying, hey, I got this guy's truck here. I need to get out of the shop. You know, Steven had no clue what was going on, why my truck was even in North Carolina, that I had paid Travis all this money. He had no clue. He just trusted Travis that Travis was getting a truck done for a customer. So Steven pays all this money out of pocket to get the trans done. He flies one of his employees to WhirleyFab to rent a car, pick up the transmission, and drive it down to Travis, North Carolina. Steven did all that just to get my truck done and out of the shop. He had no idea who I was at the time. So this is obviously a couple months prior that Steven came in to running everything, and Travis pretty much had my truck under the radar, you know, where Steven had no idea. So Steven also had no idea there were 15, 20 other people in the same shoes as me and in the same shoes as him that also had things, you know, undone, such as there was a black 06, 07 truck that a guy paid Travis for a built motor, compound kit, all this, like 1,000 horsepower build. Steven came in with the company, and to keep the company's name good, he paid out of his pocket to get that truck fully built, and that customer came and picked it up. And, you know, obviously Steven lost a bunch of money, but Steven's mission is to keep the name good, keep the company running well, and right all the wrongs made by Travis, because of course this is now Steven's baby. So Steven kind of walked into, you know, I don't know how to not cuss here, but he walked into a whirlwind of, you know, garbage, and he had to spend a bunch. He either will let the company burn by not fixing these things, or fix them and then hopefully in the future eventually make that money up, which that's a smart businessman there. That's what he did. So lo and behold, I get off the phone with Dylan and I get a DM from a guy named Steven. And it was a personal account, so I had no idea who this was. He said, "Hey, I'm the owner of Performance Diesel, please give me a call." Now mind you, at this time, I had no idea about Steven. I was like, this guy's just trying to get me to call him. I bet you Travis is behind this because he's trying to Travis is a sneaky guy. He's probably trying to get something resolved where, you know, he just has me deal with someone else as an owner. So I'm talking to Steven, they let me know everything that's going on with Travis. He pretty much got kicked out of his own company. He was supposed to remain an employee, at least, you know, a high level employee to still run the business with Steven, but he was getting kicked out. So, and he's really he's a low-life scumbag, Travis is. So at this point, Steven said, you know, I want to make your truck right. Send it out here to California. I said, you know what? I'm sorry, but I can't. I said, I don't know, Travis is still gone from your company. So I do not want my truck to get out there and you guys hold it for ransom and I can't get it back and it's, you know, 3,000 miles away, I'm not doing it. So he said, well, you know what? He said, you know, it makes sense, I understand, but I still want your truck to run right. And I said, well, let me know what your plan is and, you know, we can go from there. So he got back to me and he said, listen, I'll take your compound kit back. It's in the back of my truck right now, so I need to ship it to him. He said, I'll take your compound kit back. You can order a whole brand new compound kit from whoever you like. I'll pick your truck up in South Florida, deliver it to CDT, who's building your dad's truck, and I'll foot the bill. To swap the compound kit, send me that kit back, you know, and I'll have your truck go up there, and I'll have your truck delivered up there. And of course, you know, he's like, you can figure out getting it back home, you know, but at least we can get your truck up there and get it fixed and running right, and I'll foot the bill. And of course, you know, it kind of sucks for him because he has to pay for another shop's labor, not his own labor. So I ended up sending Steven an invoice that I got from CDT to do these mods. So Steven says, let's do it, go ahead, you know, let's move forward. At this point, I had a Screaming Diesel Performance, you know, compound kit that I wanted to do in that quote. Steven and Scott really weren't known either, like together, as you know, Scott was still weary about working with Performance Diesel, and since Steven was going to be the one paying for it, aka Performance Diesel, Scott was still pretty weary. So that's how I landed going. That's why I ended up going with Whirly Fab, which I know Jack, you know, Dirty Max on YouTube, does a lot of videos on, and beautiful kits. I mean, I love their products as well. I just had a personal connection with Scott. I have no connection with HSP, so that's why I kind of went to SDP, but that didn't work out. So CDT also works with Whirly Fab a lot, so I just went under their guidance, and if that's what they install every day, then that's going to be installed the best because that's what they know, right? So just like us with our pool company, you know, there's different pool equipment packages that you can go with, you know, looking at different pool builders. But what we install is what we know the best and what we try to use because we know it the best, so we can help our customers the best. We don't want to install something we don't know and then they have explicit questions, you know, that we're not 100% up on because we don't do it every day. And of course we don't have the support from the company because, you know, the manufacturer of the company, because we never buy their stuff. So there's no win there for us or for the customer. So I was like, you know what, let's go Whirly Fab, that's what they know. So I send Steven the invoice. Like I said, he says, let's roll with it. My truck's getting, you know, they had to order the parts, of course. Mind you, this was towards the end of 2019, so it's like winter time up north. A lot of people have their trucks down. They're buying new parts to build it up for the spring, to bring the trucks back out, so it was a very busy time. But I was in contact with Steven a lot. Me and Steven talked a lot on the phone. He told me a lot of things about Travis. And a lot of things about how other customers that he still had no idea about that were popping up that he had to fix things on. But overall, Steven is an amazing guy. He came through. You know, of course, not everything was paid for by him on this truck. There were a lot of changes I made, but he did pay for what he told me he'd pay for, and he's a stand-up guy for that. And I can't thank Steven enough at Performance Diesel, and I can't tell you guys enough how much I'd recommend Performance Diesel to this day. When I picked it up in North Carolina, you know, about 8 months ago, and it was not running right, or almost a year ago, I hated Performance Diesel. I said, I'm gonna rip up the shirts I have. I'm never gonna wear them again. now I like to wear them because I know the owner is Steven. So they are a great company. He's actually running that place right now, completely different from how Travis ran it. It's ran as a good business now. You guys can trust Performance Diesel. Like I said, I can't say enough good about Steven at Performance Diesel for making things right, because he didn't have to. He came into the situation, he had to spend more money to get my truck fixed than just telling me don't pay your invoice, right? That I still owed Performance Diesel. So he was more worried about getting my truck running right and making things right on my end, and that's what he did. Like I've already said 3 times, I can't thank Steven enough. And he's a man of his word. No matter how much money you have as a person, and my dad's always told me this, no matter how much money you have or don't have, in this world, all you have is your word. Your word, is invaluable. And as long as you stand behind it, people will know who you are as a person, and that speaks more than, just on what you have. You can have a lot of nice things, but if you're not a man of your word, you're just, a POS essentially, with like Travis, right? He had a lot of nice things, but he was a man of his word, and he's a POS. So, of course, the last video I posted was about CDT working on my truck and going over what they did to the truck. They're also an amazing shop. They did what they said they were going to do. They got the truck done. The truck's right. It looks beautiful. Everything's great. They killed it. So this truck went from me wanting to roll it off a cliff to literally loving the hell out of it, and going from such a bad experience to dealing with Steven and Thomas, Steven at Performance Diesel and Thomas at CDT Performance and Off-Road in North Carolina. It went to such a good experience. I love how the truck came out. It looks great. So hopefully that explains, in this whole time frame, when my truck was gone and I was kind of just gone from Instagram, hopefully this explains, what completely happened. I'm not the best at storytelling. My fiance always tells me I go from A to Z to B. I go all over the place, and I kind of feel like that's how this video was as well. I'm trying not to judge myself too hard, but like I said, I just wanted to wing it and kind of, as I tell the story again, more things pop in my head, of what happened that was unfortunate. But that was a long story. But long story short, to kind of do a conclusion here, I paid Performance Diesel when Travis owned the company back. I sent him the money back in January of 2019. In roughly June, I'd have to check and see when the Daytona Truck Meet was, but I missed the Daytona Truck Meet. Roughly June, July is when I actually picked the truck up with multiple issues, things not done right, and me arguing with Travis about these things to get them actually corrected. Why did I wait so long to just have issues now? I literally, when I got the truck back, I was like, I wish I just never would have touched it. I still have all the money back in my pocket, and it ran better with no issues. So there was that, and that turned into months of me being super upset and wanting to get rid of the truck, to Steven popping up, taking care of everything to make this truck right, staying behind it as a company, and CDT Performance and Off-Road also coming through and building the truck right, and me now being able to enjoy it and bring more content to you guys. So I kind of got screwed. My dad got screwed even harder than I did when this comes to, I didn't touch on that too much, but he got screwed hard. When his truck showed up to CDT, supposed to have all these parts, it had nothing. And we're talking 5 months after my dad had given him a big deposit, Travis, and it shows up to CDT with no parts. There's like a couple turbos and like 2 pipes. That was it. Like $1,000, $2 to $3 grand worth of stuff max. So, which was 10% of what my dad gave him. So that was very upsetting. My dad then got his money back, like I mentioned earlier, from the credit card company, and he was able to then, do a whole new build with CDT. And as you guys can see in the other videos, you saw where his truck was at with the compound kit, and now it's back up there now, going even further under the knife for build motor and to get some things V-banded. That's about it. And he's also going to get the reservoir cover as well for the brakes, like I have. It's killer from Rolleifab. So I can't thank Rolleifab enough for building a beautiful kit. Can't thank Steven enough. I thank him all the time for being a man of his word. Thomas as well, thank you for building the truck, and your guys building the truck, and your company did a great job. And Travis can sit on that. So I still have no love for the guy. He's kind of vanished as well. I mean, his personal Instagram is just gone. He's nowhere near any of the diesel scene anymore. I mean, he's like vanished off the face of the earth. And of course, I just got wrapped into the end of his, you know, downward spiral. So I believe that he only offered to work on my truck like he did because he needed money. He knew that, you know, if he could get my truck in his hands, he could get a deposit, you know, and then he hit the jackpot when my dad also decided to do it because he got even more money from us. But I believe that if he didn't need money, he never would have hit me up and said, hey man, I'm in North Carolina, I got a little shop, I can build your truck. So I just believe I got screwed upwards and downwards, but at this point I can clearly tell you guys that Travis is no longer anywhere in the diesel industry that I know of, but he's definitely nowhere near Performance Diesel. And Performance Diesel is a stamp company, you know, like I've said it 5 times already, but all these companies I mentioned, thank you for getting this done to where it is now. And hopefully, like I said, that describes what happened here. There's a bunch of things I didn't mention just because I'm pretty forgetful. So I'd have to actually sit down and like write things out and pull up my old emails to remember all the little details. But this is a super long video as it is, and it's, you know, pretty eventful anyways. So the next videos here I have coming up, I have a couple other little things that I've already bought parts for and have planned to make videos, and of course showing you guys how this thing sounds, because this is the 3rd video since I've gotten back, and I just wanted to really get this video out before I do anything crazy with the truck, just to kind of set the precedence of where I was, what happened, that whole scenario there. But I can't wait to get you guys awesome content of 4-wheel drive launches, burnouts, you know, racing cars and trucks, and I already have those things lined up as well to do. I have another turbo truck to turbo powered, you know, turbo LS truck to bring to the channel as well here very shortly, so I have great content on that. He's my best friend, so me and him will be getting rowdy all the time and having fun. And they're two different builds, so you know, his truck should be pretty quick, and my truck's also quick, so they'll just bring good content, I believe. There's also the car sitting right here, which I'll bring to the channel soon as well for some rowdiness. And I just have a lot of things planned. So I'm glad I'm at where I'm at now. I'm kind of, you know, I do believe everything happens for a reason, and I am happy that, you know, HSP, I have no problems with them. I see they build a lot of great things, but I believe it was probably Travis that just mangled that whole kit I had and the whole wastegate thing and all that. But I'm just glad I don't have that on my truck anymore. Not HSP's fault, once again. I believe it's all Travis with how it was set up, but I'm just glad I have none of that on my truck anymore. I'm glad it landed me to what I have now from Whirly Fab. Everything's great. This looks 3 times better than what I had before. Not that HSP can't replicate this, but you know, when Travis ordered all these parts that were different colors, and I mean, who wants to look at that? You pay for this good looking powder coat, everything's different colors. There's flat blacks, gloss blacks, purple, pink, red. I mean, it was terrible. So I am glad that this came out the way it did. I love how it drives. Like I said, a lot of things planned. I can't wait to get you guys cool content and more fun stuff to watch. Whether you guys made it to the end or not, or you just skipped to the end, there was a lot of juicy stuff in the middle there. So I know this video is not for everybody. A lot of people don't like watching someone talk for almost an hour into the camera. But thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any questions about anything, you can always leave a comment below or DM me on Instagram. I can always answer any of the questions you have. But thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you on the next upload. I promise rowdiness is going to commence here very shortly. I can't wait to show you guys how fun this thing is. I haven't even gone above tune 2 most of the time. I've gotten into it in tune 3 1 or 2 times. Tune 4 and 5 I still haven't messed with, but this thing never broke the tires loose, and it's breaking them loose now on tune 2. And you know, tune 3 as well. So tune 4 and tune 5 I'm sure are crazy. You know, it is a stock motor, but if you go back and watch the last video, it explains what is done to the motor so far, as well as everything done for fuel and air wise and transmission and everything. So if you are interested in that, go back to the last video, you can watch that. Thomas the CT explains everything in their shop when I pick the truck up, which is pretty cool. So I'll catch you guys on the next upload. Have a good night.